Ah, okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, 27th January 937. Interesting weather today, no rain, but 57 degrees already and sunny. And we'll hit, I'm not sure, 66 is the high. So it's pretty nice right now. I got Chief outside, he seems happier. The praying for Chief seems to work. He doesn't bark at me and get mad at me. What I do when I go outside and I put him next to my chair, he walks away. He doesn't want to lay next to me anymore. But he's calmed down a little bit, quite a bit actually. So I think the prayers are working, but he's still in mourning. I'm not really hearing him cry. He can get around with walking, but he's still feeble. So please pray for his walking and pray for his state of mind because he's still mourning Yafa, but it's going to a different phase, probably due to the prayers. So appreciate the prayers. Today is going to be a hard day for me to tell you what the Lord showed me this morning. It's not changing anything really at all. It's illuminating what's going to happen between now and the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man. And I don't know, it knocked me for a loop. Okay. So, those of you that are going to still want to come when Elijah appears and Apostle John, you're probably still going to come because you don't care about fear. But it's going to keep a lot of other people out. And that might be part of the reason, but it's not pretty. And he just showed me this early this morning, and I read through it and I checked word definitions and stuff. And pray I get it right. I think I have, and I'll give you the breakdown of why as we go. I think we have, but you know, it's not what I was thinking, but it's it does illustrate the effects of the siege. Apparently, the siege is going to take some time. So, just to clarify, everything's still in play, as I've been telling you, but this is a clarification or a modification, not a modification, but illuminating what's going to happen inside Israel. And I believe I can incorporate Trump into this. So it's going to be not a, it is what it is. All things work to good for those who love the Lord. So we just go with it, okay? But it's not an easy thing. And pray I get it right. Pray that I get more illumination as we go and that it works out. But it's not pretty, but it's necessary. That being said, um, like I say, it knocked me for a loop. Let's go I'm going to go into the live stream and make sure we have a live stream. I didn't get a full charge on my. Oh, no, no, I'm confusing machines. Sorry. All right. I didn't get a full charge. Okay. When people call me old guy, old man, grandpa, I just block them. If they're sincere and they just want to learn and listen, they can. Blocking just means they can't post. These are, in my opinion, are derogatory terms. They call me OG, which is original gangster. They call me names of movie stars, and I just block them. That's it. Okay, that's a nasty comment. It's not right. It shows you have anything but respect for older people. All right. Let me get my posts up. People are coming in, so it's a good time to do it while they're coming in. And I'll just get my email up and we'll get going. Almost there. And I'll be done in 2 or 3 seconds. Okay, done. I'm going to do some praise, being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Since we're supposed to watch, and there's a lot of very important current events or interesting or pointing to end times, I'm going to cover those as rapidly as I can, but as thoroughly as I can at the same time. Colombia. Colombia refused some flights of deportees. They said we're not going to receive them. Trump said he's going to pull all the visas of every Colombian government official in the United States, basically kick them out. And he was going to put tariffs on Colombia and all kinds of stuff. And then the Colombian president called Trump or called the White House or somebody and said that he's sending his presidential plane to America to pick up the deportees and bring them to Colombia. And then Trump, of course, forgave everything and they came back. There are videos now of buses going into Mexico with deportees, so Mexico backed off too. Okay? So Trump, now that doesn't mean that they're happy about what happened and they're just going to do everything Trump says. They took measures to shut Trump up now, and they're wondering what they're going to do as the days progress with Trump. Don't think they're happy getting dictated to. They should, by every stretch of the imagination, receiving their deportees back. I believe there's treaties to that effect. They just didn't want to. They wanted to keep the burden on America. The two Bush presidents were not very weak, but this 8 years of Obama was extreme weakness, followed by Trump, and then 4 years of Biden with super extreme weakness. So Nations are truly taking advantage of America. There's no doubt about it. Okay. Now, I need to explain to you the tariffs again. Trump is saying now that he believes that he can run America without an IRS, no income tax, just based on tariffs like they did in the old days of America, hundreds of years ago, early America. Well, it's yes and no. Um, it's it's not like the old days where they were bringing in spices and seasonings and other products into early America that you couldn't get anywhere else in America. So the people just had to pay the tariff. But what you have to understand, imagine a container ship pulls up to a dock with goods from any country you name that has tariffs on it, 25%, let's say, right? So what do? Imagine this. It's not realistic, but you got it. You want those goods. You go down to the port and the pier, and you show your purchase order or your bill of sale or your receipt to the customs people, and they get your package out of the container. They take the value on the receipt and they add 25% of it. You reach into your pocket and give them 25% right then and there, and then you take the goods out. That's basically what it is. So it is a tax on you, the consumer, the American. Okay? So he's getting rid of one set of taxes and putting another set in. Now, what you also need to understand is big corporations like what Bill Gates and the Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and those characters have, Ford, General Motors, all these people, big companies, right? Is they have lots of accountants and bookkeepers, room full usually, maybe a floor. If it's a big operation, you might have a whole floor in an office building full of accountants and bookkeepers, okay? And lawyers, tax lawyers. And that costs them millions of dollars a year. On top of that, they have to save documentation to show what their profit really was, to make sure they're not understating their profits, and show the receipts for the raw materials they use to manufacture, the cost of labor, cost of the building, electricity, air conditioning, blah, blah, blah. And they have to save that for it's either 2 or 3 years in case the IRS wants to audit. They got rooms, floors full of paperwork they save. Okay? Then their income tax filings they could be 2, 3, 4 inches thick, 8 inches thick. Okay? So they spend millions of dollars a year, millions, accumulating records for the IRS, and then they pay as little tax as they possibly can legally get away with. Okay? That's the system. So Trump's system's going to save a massive amount of big corporations, millions of dollars a year in prepping for the IRS. Many millions. Okay? And they're not going to get audits. When they get an audit, it costs them more millions of dollars. If they got to go to court and fight it, it costs them more millions of dollars. All this is erased. With a tariff, what's the bill of lading? What's the receipt? What is the price? What's the bill? So whatever they're going to document the cost with. You multiply it times 1.25, hit the equal sign, or you just multiply it actually by 0.25 if it's a 25% tariff, and this is what you have to pay. So whoever is importing the goods, which is a distributor, a big store, okay, or a manufacturer using it, they are paying the 25% to Donald Trump's government. Now, is this tax going to be passed on to the consumer who actually buys the goods? They buy the wooden cabinet. They buy the wooden table with imported wood. They buy a car. They buy a refrigerator, a radio, a TV. Okay. It's a very iffy thing, and you need to understand it. I have an MBA before I was in ministry, okay? So I understand this junk, right? I took finance, all this stuff, accounting. All right. So, well, I was never a serious accountant. I took a one semester course, which was two accounting courses combined into one semester, and it made you basically a full charge bookkeeper, not an accountant. So that's as far as I took it. But I did take finance, production management, and stuff like this. All right, so, and these things don't change. I took a course in stocks and bonds. This stuff doesn't change. I took marketing from them. Relatively worthless, really. They can't sell stamps in the post office. The guy that was teaching me marketing course, this was in San Francisco, was the marketing guy in charge of BART. That's that railroad system that they built around the San Francisco area. I mean, marketing for that. What's his competition? A car or a bus? You know, it's silly, but okay. Moving along, well, these schools are not training people to go out and be independent entrepreneurs. They're training people predominantly to work for major corporations, sit in an office and spend your life indoors under that lighting, breathing canned air, and so forth. Moving along. They never had a course in being a salesman. That you had to figure out on your own. Okay. But marketing is way more complicated than being a salesman. It involves advertising, promotion, labeling, packaging, shipping, inventory, all kinds of things. It's very much more complicated than knock knock. I'm here to sell you garbage can liners or tables, or, that kind of thing. That's very basic stuff. So you're going to be paying the tariff. But see, let's say Trump, what he's intending to do is put a 10% tax on China goods imported into America, not 25%. Now, why didn't he do 25%? Because China companies can probably drop 10% on their price and still make a profit. They can't drop 10%, maybe they drop 7%. You know what I'm saying? So even when you add the price of the tariff on, it's still going to be competitive, and its sales will likely not drop. If they want to, they can keep their prices the same as they were before the tariff. You see? Or maybe they'll go up 3% or 2% or 4% or something like that, which is going to not, Chinese goods are so cheap to start with, it's not going to impact very substantially the sales, probably not at all. Okay, but other countries, like he hits Mexico with 25% on their agriculture, could they just, fruit and vegetables, could they just drop 25% off the price and still make it? Probably, but their profit margins, maybe they're at 40% or something like that. They might go down to 15%. They're probably not going to do that. They might drop prices 10% or something like that to stop the impact. But you're paying these, they're going to raise the prices. And at certain times of the year, many times of the year in America, you're not going to get a lot of fruits and vegetables because the growing season in America isn't at that time. So you're going to be getting goods from other countries, from Central South America, Asia, other places, in your American supermarket, okay? And they're going to be hit with tariffs. Unless they just completely submit to Trump, and then there may not be tariffs, okay? So your cost of food, fruits and vegetables, is to some extent going to go up. Okay. Car prices from companies making the vehicles in Mexico. Volkswagen makes them there. I think Ford, BMW, I don't know. A lot of them make cars in Mexico because they get cheap labor, cheap real estate. They don't have to pay workman's comp. They don't have to pay all the taxes. It's much more beneficial to them. And these cars are going to get hit with 25%. People aren't going to buy them. An American car made in America is going to look way the heck more attractive than a car made in another country with the high tariff. Okay? So that would probably work in the favor. But what are the American, listen to me hard here, okay? I know what I'm talking about. The companies in America, let's say an American company that makes paint, like you want to paint your house, your fence, paint, right? A commodity item basically because you need it, right? It's a basic, it's not a luxury item or an optional thing. Who's going to move into a house without paint, you know? So you are going to get American companies making paint, and they're going to see paint coming in from other countries where it's cheap to make it and stuff like that are more expensive now. What are they going to do? Well, initially, what they're going to do is bump up their prices maybe 3%, 5%. Okay. Now, if your company makes, $380 million in sales a year, and you bump it up 5%, well, you made $50,000 on $1 million, multiply that by 380. The guy can pay for his nice private aircraft or something. Now, that's just how they're going to start: 3%, 5%, 2%. Over time, they'll work it up. Maybe they'll get up to 7 or 10% price advances, raising prices in business school, or they call it, or the stock market people in Wall Street, they call it a price advance. It's a price increase, raising the price. Okay. They teach you all sorts of stuff. One of the things I remember they taught us was, how do you raise the price of a candy bar without raising the price of a candy bar? They ask you this, right? And then they teach it to you. Well, what you do is you reduce the size of the candy bar and you modify the packaging to make it look like a candy bar. They teach you stuff like, if you want to sell milk or yogurt, you don't put it in a black package. Nobody's going to want to buy that in a black package. But if you were selling an expensive perfume, you could put it in a black box, a nice black box, and it would work quite well. Getting the idea of what they teach you, they got this stuff down. Okay? They know what they're doing. All right? When they want to test the product, it almost won't fail. Okay? They go to places like amusement parks and places where families with children collect, and they pay the people, or maybe they give them $10 or something, to come in for 30, 45 minutes and taste new cookies they came out with. And they are very nice to the families and the children. You wouldn't want to think they're any nicer. They'll have the children go in a room. The parents will be nearby. They can have coffee, cold water, sit down, air conditioning, right? And the bathroom they could use. They could sit down and make a phone call. And the kids are there, and then people that talk to the kids are very, very nice to the kids. And they say, we would like you to try these different cookies and tell us which one you like the most. So do you have to twist the kids on? No. Yeah, okay, I'm in. But think about it, make sure you pick the one that tastes the best. Do they tell the kids the one that's the healthiest? No, the one, right? So they'll give the kid maybe two, three, four cookies, right? And they might be competitors' products. They can do that. Or they might be other prototypes they're thinking of selling. The kid eats the cookie, then they're usually a very small cookie. They don't give him a big cookie, they give him a tiny cookie. Eats the cookie, eats another cookie, eats another cookie. They probably stop at around three, they may go to four. And then they ask the kid which one was the best, and the kid will tell them, right? And they do this around the country in different regions and stuff, and then they calculate the data and they say, well, if we're going to market this cookie to competitors, are going to kill it because all the kids like the competition better than our new one. We got to go back and make a new one. So they save a fortune that way, right? Or if they just putting out two or three new cookies prototypes, they find out which one most of the kids like the most. Okay. Got it? And then they market it. So they're not bulletproof, but they're in pretty good shape the way they do things. So back to the tariffs. So what's going to happen is the American companies, remember Trump put 10 billionaires in offices in various capacities. So their companies are going to flourish because they're going to get more sales and they're going to be able to raise prices. And you're paying for this. You, Mr. and Mrs. Citizen, constituent in America, are paying for this. Now, he wants to do that to the whole European Union and other countries. Well, they're going to retaliate and put a tariff on American goods. Unless Trump goes over there with the B-52s and starts dropping bombs on them, they're going to do this. Okay? And so when American companies sell goods overseas, their people overseas in Europe, let's say, are going to have to pay that tariff. So they'll probably put a tit for tat 25% on it. So that's going to hurt American manufacturers' sales in a tremendously large amount of industries. It's going to hurt their sales overseas because their prices won't be competitive against the local stuff. So people will revert more and more to local stuff. This will result in a drop of sales. But then Trump's balancing it like holding broken eggs. Well, by raising the prices on the foreign goods, our guys will experience more domestic sales in America. It's a very dangerous game, and it's not going to work because he's doing it to too many countries at the same time. Now comes BRICS. BRICS is at just under 30 nations, where they may have hit 30. I don't know. Algeria just joined, I think. Maybe it's 28, 29, something like that. He's going to put 100% tariff on them because of the trading without the dollar. So China may not hold at 10% when the BRICS start using their digital currency, the BRICS dollar and the digital payment system and all that stuff, and they insist on the trades not taking place in euros or US dollars. What happens? Well, then Trump will put China on 100% tariff. So if he goes through with this 100% tariff, you're going to have a very large shortage of goods in America. Many things have gone out of business in America years ago. It used to be that, if you go back about 50, 60 years, Sears and Roebuck sold Craftsman tools. They were excellent. They were not cheap, they were not super expensive, but they were excellent. And if any of them broke, they replaced it for free. One day I got a socket wrench, and this is in the 1960s. I'm old. I could say I'm old. and in the 1960s, and I went back to the Sears and Roebuck store holding the thing, and I said, "Gee, I went to the guy in the tool department. I said, I bought this thing here a few months ago. It broke." He looked at it and said, he walked over to the shelf where they had them and said, here's another one. Sorry, and he took the broken one, and I just walked out. The whole thing didn't take 60 seconds. That was it. See, that they were one of the old pride of workmanship where they were selling things. My father had an electric drill. He bought one. He bought probably in the 50s, and he had that for at least 50 years, and he used it a lot. You know, monkey wrenches and stuff like that. You'd buy them; they'd last for half a century or more. See, then China came out with cheap junk tools. The screwdrivers are so bad; they wear out, they break, they bend, whatever. All the stuff they sell is cheap, 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 but it breaks. It doesn't last. And as the economy in America got worse and worse, and inflation, people stopped thinking right. They weren't thinking, oh, I can buy a set of screwdrivers and socket wrenches and monkey wrenches. I'll buy the good stuff. I'll have them my whole life. That went away. Only buy the cheapest junk I can, and I got a screwdriver, and they know it's not going to last. And they figure they'll just go out and buy another one. They're cheap, and that's not the way to do it. See, the people in America, like the after World War II people, and they would buy something that would last forever or a long time. You know, my father had an air pump for his cars that I believe went back before World War II, and I think he must have had the thing at least 30 years. An air pump, you know, things would last. Okay, they would last, and a lot of this stuff now is made to just have a very short lifespan. Okay, and then you got to get rid of it. So you're paying the tariffs. You have to understand that. So he's just switching a method of taxing you. Getting rid of the IRS is a psychological plus for Trump in an immense way because people hate them. Okay? IRS agents that go around, these are normally the revenue agents, of which there's thousands. They have credentials that look like they're law enforcement. They're not. They don't have a badge. They don't have a gun. And they go around and flash their credentials and they dictate to you and, all kinds of stuff like that, right? And the people hate them. They hate them. And um, they'll love getting rid of them because they're a curse on America, okay? And but they're not going to understand it. They're not going to have to prepare tax returns anymore. But the average employee does their taxes themselves, or they go to a service and they spend, I don't know, 300, 500, $800,000, maybe, probably more like $300 to $600 to have a return filed to get it done right. They do that, right? And then what happens? They're done. They're not saving millions in terms of being able to lay off a whole floor full of people like a big company and get rid of that payroll and benefits and retirement and all that stuff and get rid of those computers and get rid of those huge floors of storage where they store the records for years. They get rid of all that. It's all over. So they come out on top more than you, but you get a big psychological boost. Okay? And Trump probably, to make the point, won't try to reabsorb them into other government agencies. He'll probably just lay them off. Because people will say, they're stinking IRS agents, the Stasi, the Gestapo, and they'll be happy. And these people will suffer, and nobody cares. A lot of them will find jobs in other government agencies. There's still going to be accountants and bookkeepers because they have to do what's called cost accounting. They have to understand what it costs them to make something in manufacturing, or what it costs them to buy something and then resell it in the next store. Stuff like this. So there's going to be, a place for accountants, but they're going to go down, and a lot of them are going to have to get retrained or something. Tax attorneys will diminish greatly, but they're attorneys. They'll figure something out. And the cases in the courts with the taxes will go on for 2, 3, 4 years anyway. And Trump already started his external revenue service to collect tariffs, so it's going to go down. But Trump is playing a very dangerous game. And if all these countries in BRICS and the EU put tariffs on America, he's forcing America to be an isolationist country like perhaps it was after World War II. It was isolationist. America had their own beef, their own chickens, their own lamb, their own pork, corn, wheat, rice, everything. Grew everything. Okay? Then they started paying the farmers not to grow crops and all this other sick stuff, right? And America's not ready to be isolationist. It's going to take years. Probably take 4 years. America made their own cars. Very few people bought foreign cars in America. And, in the 60s, even into the 80s, people made fun of other people that bought foreign cars. In the 80s, it was dying off. In the 70s, it was dying off even. But in the 50s and 60s, they made fun. They used to say, buy an American car and you give a guy a job for a week. This was true. And foreign cars were sort of exotic and not common in America. Even in the 60s, there were not that many foreign cars. Mercedes sold cars. Ferrari, Aston Martin sold some cars. I don't think Lamborghini did. They were a new company then. Peugeot sold cars, Fiat, but it was a very small amount. Very small amount. So Trump could also ruin the American economy. Remember Jeremiah 50, verse 24, America's in a snare. Jehovah put the snare on America. And it looks like Trump is continuing to execute the snare. And this business with the tariffs could fall and devastate America. It likely will. Why do I say that? Because he's doing too much too fast. He's not going slow. He's going like gangbusters. And too much at the same time. And I think it'll mess this economy up very good. an internet cable was cut connecting Latvia and Sweden again. So, we gotta, I mean, I think I need to tell you to consider that there might not be internet soon. Okay. Remember, Mexico and Colombia submitted to Trump on accepting the deportees, but don't think they're not planning retaliation. That's naive. Egypt rejected firmly any Palestinians coming into Egypt temporarily or permanently. Is completely off the table as far as Egypt is concerned. Can Trump help them change their mind or something like that? Yeah, he's good at that, but I don't know. Um, if he's going to be successful doing that. They don't want him there for two reasons. They want Hamas to have human shields. If it was only Hamas in Gaza and they launched missiles, we would just drop 300 or 400 bombs and there'd be no more Gaza and no more Hamas. And they were afraid to have these people in their country because they'll hook up with the Muslim Brotherhood and overthrow Egypt. There's talk now of finding a port in the Los Angeles area where they've noticed signs outside that are saying Traffico, I think on the roof of the wall or something, or outside, and help. So things are going to be done about that. They think it's something to do with human trafficking. Coming in on boats because it's a port. I think this is a breaking story, so we don't know what's going to develop yet. Rest assured, these tariffs are going to help the billionaires. They may help you, but I think the odds are against it. So you're going to have these tariff prices. You're still going to have your sales tax. If Trump gets rid of federal income tax, you're still going to have state income tax, except there's a handful of states that don't have a state income tax. I know Florida's one, I think Nevada. There's a few. And there's a couple of places that don't have a sales tax. I think Oregon is one. You know, but you're still going to have sales tax to the states and the cities, and you're going to have income tax to the states and the cities. Not many cities charge a sales tax, but it does exist. I think some do, but it's very small. All right. Now, I told you that we're going to get more into the Bible now. I told you that Elijah in Malachi 3, with the temple and training the Levites, is probably not going to happen until there's peace. Now, some of you are probably a little interested as to why we've had ceasefires now for a while. Why nothing happened yet. Well, I need to explain this to you. yes, there are ceasefires on paper. During the ceasefires in Lebanon, Israel blew up a massive amount of weapons and Hezbollah locations and stuff like that, and we're still doing it. Actually, yesterday we shot a bunch of civilians, some of which were Hezbollah dressed up as civilians, trying to go back down into South Lebanon near the border. I think 15 were killed and 20 or 30 were wounded yesterday. So the fighting's still going on, although it's not in Israel right now. But the ceasefires are just on paper. Trump announced, not Netanyahu, that the Lebanon ceasefire is extended to February 18th because the Lebanese army did not keep Hezbollah out of South Lebanon completely, so the IDF picked it up and got rid of most of them, probably, up to the Litani River, I believe. We've occupied about 10 or 12 villages. I don't have an exact count, but it's about like that. And we're still occupying these villages, okay? And the idea is that the Lebanese army has to wake up and occupy South Lebanon and keep Hezbollah out and get rid of the Hezbollah weapons. Do I think they'll perform by February 18th? I don't know. Trump's the wild card. Trump might tell them this. He said, look, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I don't care. Netanyahu will do it. And I'll support him. If you want to do it, and you do it right, like you're supposed to in the ceasefire agreement, then Netanyahu will leave Lebanon. Will they do it or not do it? My feeling is they won't. Now let's talk about the Gaza ceasefire. We're still fighting in Gaza. Okay? The Gazans keep breaking the ceasefire. Little points that are dangerous. They were supposed to release this woman civilian hostage last week, I think Friday, when they released the hostages. Or was it Saturday? I can't remember. I think it was Friday. No, it was Friday, I think. And now they're going to do, to offset, they're going to do 2 hostage releases this week. I think one on Thursday and one on Friday. They said that they gave Netanyahu a list of all the hostages they had and who's alive and who's dead. It's been at least 24 hours, and Netanyahu has not released that information to the public. Why? It's bad. What do you think? It's not good information, or he would have released it. Now they're saying, and it might only be 8 dead or something like that. I don't know, but why didn't he release it? Is an interesting situation, isn't it? So we'll have to see. Eventually, he has to release it. He probably went to Trump's people to see how they want him to play it. Now, let me tell you what Trump did. I know Netanyahu didn't do it. Well, I believe Trump is doing, Lebanon is now going to be getting a bunch of prisoners from that we have under arrest that were involved in the October 7th fiasco. And they're supposedly going to be returned to Lebanon now. So he's humiliating Israel again. Okay? How do you think the Lord likes that? Because he's humiliating Jehovah, the God of Israel, in the Bible. many times. So what do you think is going to happen there? Not good for Trump, believe me. So the Gaza ceasefire keeps being broken. We resolved this, we patched it up, and we're letting the Gazans from, I guess, central and south Gaza return to the northern part of Gaza. It already begun. Some people are saying that it's impossible for us to win the war now. But I'm not so sure that's true because we got them to evacuate once, we can get them to evacuate again. I have not heard what Jordan said about Trump saying to put the Gazans in Jordan. We haven't had any public feedback from Jordan. I think that the King of Jordan is afraid to do that. I don't think he'll do it. But because we didn't have any feedback, he's probably still negotiating with the Americans about this. There was talk about sending him to Indonesia, but Indonesia said they never heard anything about it before, so it could have been just a rumor. Or maybe they didn't want to admit they were talking to Trump about it. That could be the case also. I believe they're the largest Muslim majority nation. So Trump is doing a sleight of hand on the American people with the tariffs, believe me. But it does help the people. For instance, if you make $3 million a month, $36 million a year, which is nothing for these oligarchs. They make that in a week. So, um, you're going to spend a heck of a lot more money buying things, furniture, cars, trips, hotel suites for $3,000-4,000 a night, jewelry, all kinds of stuff, right? And you're going to be paying more tariffs because you're spending more money. So they're going to pay more taxes, the rich. But right now, I'm not so sure that's the case at all. So I got to give credit to Trump. It does have some good points, okay? But he's using the word tariff and making the average American think the foreign country is going to pay it. You're going to pay it, not them. Probably at least 70% of Americans, or maybe 90%, don't even know what I just told you. They'll figure it out. Now, if Trump decides to default on the Federal Reserve debt, which is America's debt, he's basically going to hurt a handful of people. Maybe the most would be 12, maybe 3 or 4. Whoever the real owners are, the beneficiaries of the Fed that don't have to pay tax on what they receive. They're going to get hurt, but they're already trillionaires, so how hurt will they get? And Trump could cancel the national debt. That means it would be everybody that owes the IRS, owes student loans, owes the government. There is no more debt. And what's the Federal Reserve going to do about it? I don't know. I don't know what they can do about it. They don't have an army. They got a police department. They're Federal Reserve Police. They're a private company. And they have special agents with badges and credentials and powers, like a U.S. federal agent. And they're a private company. Isn't that pretty weird? Very weird. But it's real. But they, what are they going to do? Try to arrest Trump or something? Yeah, there's nothing they can do. They got no recourse. If Trump shuts them down and says the Federal Reserve is not constitutional or something like that, and we're forgiving our own debt to the Federal Reserve because it's a Ponzi scheme, and it's finished. The IRS is gone. See, with the IRS gone, the Federal Reserve is next. I promise you. If Trump does that, the people in America will worship him. And that all fits together with his digital currency, replacing the dollar. Because he doesn't have to pay the Federal Reserve interest for them creating money out of thin air and renting it to the American government for payment, for interest payments. That's how the Federal Reserve works. It's actually the theater of the insane. But the people in America don't really know this goes on. They've been dumbed down. The foreigners that live in America, even legally, don't even know what the Federal Reserve is, probably. So, all the path seems to lead to doing what I just told you, getting rid of the national debt and the Federal Reserve. And what happens then is all the debt people owe will be erased. They'll love them. They'll want him to have a third term. But Trump is going too fast and making too many enemies at the same time. And he's blurring the lines between an ally and an enemy. Trump recently deployed soldiers to the Korean theater, the Middle East, and Europe. I'm not sure they count, but it was noticeable enough for the military people to take note. So, I don't know what's up with that. Probably nothing exactly, because it's in 3 theaters: the Korean area, the Middle East, and Europe. So I don't know what's going on. And it may just be positioning. Putin and Ukraine seem very far apart for a ceasefire. I don't see that coming to pass. So while we do have ceasefires on paper, we don't really have ceasefires. And the ones we have right now are getting strained because they're super fragile. For instance, what happens in Lebanon February 18th when the Lebanese army failed to do what they were supposed to? What does Israel do? Israel's going to say they failed to abide by the ceasefire, so we're continuing it. The Lebanese government says, no, you're not. Now we got a resumption of the war. Then Hezbollah starts shooting missiles again, interdicting ships. Then Gaza starts exploding. And then what about Iran? See, we haven't finished off Iran or the Houthis, although the Houthis are honoring the ceasefire. Iran is capable of attacking Israel again. So, What I'm telling you is the ceasefires, we're still fighting just about every day in Lebanon and Gaza. In addition, they tried to open up a new war, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, in the West Bank, and we're fighting there every day. Soldiers are getting hurt and killed. So the ceasefires are not what they sound like, and the West Bank is actually another front. We're using aircraft, tanks, all sorts of stuff. And the West Bank extends into East Jerusalem, which is the site of the temple. So if Elijah was working with the Levites, it would be in what we call East Jerusalem today. So we're not really there, guys. And things could solidify. Lebanon does what's expected of them in the ceasefire. Gaza performs with the ceasefire. And then Netanyahu pulls out of Gaza. It could go that way. If somebody hits Iran, be it America with or without the UK, and or with Israel, or Israel by itself, the Houthis are going to probably start up again. And it appears to me, I covered that yesterday, that an attack on Iran is rather imminent, based on the 9 refueling airplane tankers recently brought in to Ramstein base in Germany. Trump ran his mouth about Iran and the nukes, and he's going to fulfill. So he's going to talk to Iran. He probably already has 2 channels. And tell them he wants them to abide by the International Atomic Energy Commission people, according to the levels of radioactive material is supposed to be operating with, uranium or something. I don't know how really radioactive poisonous it is, but anyway. And if they're not in compliance, sanctions are very hard to make work on Iran. He could block up the Persian Gulf, inspect all ships coming and going out of Iran, and stop Iran from sending any oil out through the Persian Gulf, which means they're out of business. But I don't think he's going to want to do that until some things in Iran are disabled. So likely Israel would hit all the Iranian radar around the nuclear facilities and around the country and other places, which would leave the American jets protected to bomb the nuclear facilities with the big bunker buster bombs. And Israel would probably also attack missile sites, missile and weapon storage facilities, factories, and stuff like that. I don't think they're going to bother blowing the ports up, because that sort of burns your bridge with Iran. But when they do this, they're worried about the Houthis attacking shipping. See, Trump wants the shipping in the Red Sea open, so Egypt could control the Red Sea and collect tariffs. And also Egypt will enforce Trump's sanctions and stop ships associated with the country with the sanctions from going through the Suez Canal one way or the other. The other thing Trump could do is bring a bunch of warships, which are already in the Middle East, over to the Persian Gulf and just put a blockade on Iran violating sanctions, which Biden never did. Then he has to bank on whether or not Iran has the guts to attack these ships and kill large amounts of sailors and destroy billions of dollars worth of Navy equipment. So he's going to want Iran defanged. And that's going to involve striking a lot of targets, all the radar, so they can't guide any missiles. And we may have to attack the ships, so they can't attack the American ships, or America may attack it, I don't know. We're not hearing any signs of Iran saying they're going to comply with the IAEA guidelines they're supposed to be following. So I expect Trump's going to strike them. They told us Netanyahu is going to visit Trump in the White House in the first half of February. And they wouldn't give us a date, probably for security reasons. So, that is, in my book, likely planning a Iran attack. That's what I think it is. I could be wrong, could be something else. So the ceasefire is really just on paper. It's not a real ceasefire. And it doesn't look like it's a peace deal or anything like that, or anything likely to hold up right now. I'm sick and tired of this government here. Netanyahu agreeing to release almost 2,000 terrorist prisoners that have killed or maimed or injured or attempted to kill Israeli innocent civilians, men, women, and children. And now he's giving dozens of them from Lebanon away. You know, it's really stupid. So, and the high taxes, the lousy economy, the deceptions, the lies. I just pray the two witnesses come and appear soon. And that'll change everything. So keep praying for that, for yourselves too, and for the world. So while there were paper ceasefires, please bear in mind that the ceasing of the attacks did not stop. Okay? We were doing the attacking, and we still are, as of yesterday. But it was just on paper. That's why we didn't see anything emerge. and they're very fragile right now. So I still think we're on a very quick track to the two witnesses appearing, but I just needed to explain that, and it leads right into the Bible study we're going to start in a minute. Okay, so let's start in Isaiah 1. And please pray for me. I got to deal with the bureaucracy of the government here again. It's nothing serious at all. It's just a royal pain in the neck. Please, pray for me that I could get through this easily. I think I can do it all online and pray I get that done. Appreciate it. This rotten government, it's just one thing after another. You have issues all over the place. It's just like all the rest of them around the world, the rotten, stinking, satanic governments decide to make the people miserable. That's it. That's all they are. To flourish the Satan bots, that they should be, wealthier and happier, but they're not. They're only happier in the flesh. So, all right, we're going to go into Isaiah 1, and we're going to go through 5. And it's hard for me to do this, but I'm going to do it. Not hard that I can't understand it. Hard that it's what's facing us here in Israel. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amoz, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, that's the land we have now. That's us. That's now. No 10 tribes, okay? In the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Hezekiah. Okay, this is those days with those kings is when he got the vision, not that it's for that time. Okay? Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for Jehovah hath spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. That's the case now. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know my people. What? But Israel doth not know my people? I'm reading it right, but it makes no sense. What it's saying in Hebrew is Yisrael, lo, does it say Levine? Yada. That really means to know. So it's saying, it makes no sense in English. Israel not know. Oh, I get it now. Israel doesn't know, and my people not, and what's considered. Okay, Bavine, understand. The people don't understand. Okay, I get it. Hebrew doesn't go into English very well. It's choppy. Sinful nation, he calls us goyim. A people laden with lawlessness, seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. Let's check that word. Probably better a destroyer than a corrupter would be. I would call it a destroyer, but They have forsaken Jehovah. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. That can apply anywhere, but it does apply now as well. But it could go back many centuries and still apply. But he's talking about Judah and Jerusalem, so that would have to be 1948 forward, wouldn't it? Like in the year 1600 or 1200, they weren't in Israel. Why should you be stricken anymore? You will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint. From the sole of the foot even unto the head, there's no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up. Neither modified with ointment. Well, you see, that happens with the appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds. That's when it's over. Your country is desolate. Your cities have burned. Let's check the word for desolate. Now, it's hard for me to imagine Israel being desolate with, we're up to 10 million people in Israel, counting the Arabs. How does that work? I don't know. See, maybe it's for the past, maybe it's upcoming. Your cities are burned with fire. Well, we've had that. Many of our cities have been attacked with missiles, and they've caused a lot of fires. So that could be that, maybe. With fire, your land. Oh, that's not the right word here. More like your ground. Strangers devour. That would be more like burn up in your presence. Well, they were launching fire balloons, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them from Gaza, and they caused thousands of acres to burn up. Various missile and drones have caused fires as well. So maybe it's happened. Strangers devour it in your presence. Well, the Palestinians in the West Bank were doing that, burning agriculture belonging to Jews. I don't know if it's going to get in the future or it's already happened. I don't know. And it is desolate as overthrown by strangers. And the daughter of Zion is left as a cottage in a vineyard, as a lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. There comes the siege word. Except Jehovah of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, and we should have been like unto Gomorrah. Well, this may be a reflection in the past of what happened. Okay? 70 AD, perhaps. Babylonian captivity, perhaps. So it may be a reflection in the back time. It happened already. Hear the word of Jehovah, you rulers of Sodom, and give ear unto the law of our God, you people of Gomorrah. To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me? See, now this makes me think it's reflecting into the past, because there are no sacrifices going on in Israel since 70 AD. So this would have to be a reflection on the past, which gives me a sigh of relief. Okay. Saith Jehovah, I am full of the burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of bullocks or of lambs or of he goats. When you come to appear before me, who hath required this at your hand to tread my courts. Bring no more vain oblations. This is why Elijah's training the Levites, and the people in general, I expect, will be getting trained. Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons and Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away. I cannot away with. It is lawlessness, even the solemn meaning. Okay. This is talking about them, the weightiest things of the Lord. So what they did, they ate the clean food. They did the go up feast 3 times a year. They bought sacrificial animals. They did all this stuff. Okay. They even went to the synagogue. But at the same time, they had unequal weights and measures. They lied. They took false oaths. They sued each other. They ripped each other off. They took advantage of the workers who had no recourse against them, cheating them of their wages, holding them back, paying them late. Took advantage of the widow and the orphan, the strangers. Real. This goes on today in full. Your new moons, this because there's a new moon feast, and your appointed feast, my soul hateth. They are a trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them, because they're living evil, avoiding the weightier things of the law, but following the routine rituals. And I see this today. I know some guy, complete horrible person, married, hits on married women. Okay? Hits on married women. Um, Sues people all the time. Real lousy guy, you know? And what does he do? He observes the dietary laws of Moses. He won't even put his lights on the Shabbat. It's all a vain show. He's going through the rituals of Moses' law, thinking he's okay, wiping his feet on the weightier things of the law. Got it? And this is common in Israel. Not by all, but many. 2/3, my guess. I'm in Isaiah 1:15. And when you spread forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Yea, when you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. See, they were performing the works of the Lord, but they were doing evil. Lying, cheating, stealing, all this stuff. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. Relieve the oppressed. They persecute the oppressed here in Israel. Judge the fatherless. See, Satan likes that because it makes people want to have money because they think that's the security. Judge the fatherless. In other words, those are the orphans. Plead for the widow. So, if the father's gone, the widow and the child or the children could be persecuted. Come now and let us reason together, saith Jehovah. Though your sins be scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. If you be willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured with the sword. For the mouth of Jehovah hath spoken it, the sword. Okay. How is the faithful city become a harlot? It was full of judgment, righteousness, lodged in it, but now murderous. Thy silver has become dross, thy wine mixed with water. Thy princes are rebellious and companions of thieves. Princes are the government administrators, likely, and perhaps the rich ones that run big companies. Everyone loveth gifts. Like Danielle gets gifts of expensive cigars, and the wife gets gifts of expensive champagne. And followeth after rewards, that's bribes. They judge not the fatherless, neither doth the cause of the widow come unto them. Therefore saith Adonai Jehovah of armies, the mighty one of Israel, and I will ease me of my enemies, and avenge me. I will ease me of my adversaries and avenge me of my enemies. It's saying, I will ease me. I think I messed up. It says, they messed this up. It's basically saying, sorry from could be adversaries. Sorry from adversaries. Avenge me. Avenge me of adversaries. Okay. It's again, the guy's not trying to twist it. It's just choppy. He doesn't understand how to put it in English. And I will turn my hand upon thee and purely purge away thy dross and take away all thy tin. Well, that we see that plain as day with Elijah and the Levites in Malachi 3, and we see it plain as day in Zechariah 13, 8, and 9, where the 2/3 get cut off, and then he does this to the 1/3. So we got our time frame, don't we? And I will restore thy judges as at the first. I've covered that many times. There's Moses and Aaron, and it'll be the two witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John. To be a judge, you should be a prophet, and those are two prophets, the only two coming. People can prophesy as a gift of the Spirit. That doesn't make them an office holder of the office of prophet. And thy counsel is the 70 as at the beginning. They'll have that again. Afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with judgment. That's the two-thirds getting cut off. And her converts with righteousness. That's your year of redemption, I believe. And the destruction of the transgressors and of the sinners shall be together. This is the two-thirds. And they that forsake the Lord shall be consumed, or perhaps burned up. Let's see. No, this says cease. There are no more. That's basically what it's saying. For they shall be ashamed of the oaks which we have desired, and you shall be confounded for the garden that you have chosen. That's where they have their rituals, demonic rituals. For you shall be as an oak whose leaf fadeth, and as a garden that hath not water. Not a great promise for these evil people. And the strong shall be as tow, and the maker of it as a spark, and they shall both burn together, and none shall quench them. Well, see, we know where this is rather exactly. Malachi 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of armies, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Okay, so we know the timing here. It's not that hard to get to that. Okay, we know the timing of the burning the dross and the tin out. So we're in the days just before that. Now we go to Isaiah 2. So I think it's important that you know about these ceasefires. It's not that I'm missing the boat with the ceasefires. It's just really on paper more than anything else. But it does show hope for it becoming, or potential, not so much hope. I'm not hoping for, well, potential for it to become real ceasefires. But we're not there yet. Nevertheless, whoa, I got all over the place. Sorry, wrong chapter. The word that Isaiah the son of Amoz saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Well, there again, that's the land now. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house, and it's called a Beit house because the glory of God resides in this. The mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. That's Mount Zion. And shall be exalted above the hills, and all the nations shall flow unto it. See, that can happen before the siege, too, and really irk Satan and the leaders. When Elijah appears with Apostle John and the signs and wonders, and the temple comes down from heaven, you have to understand, it would be like Satan's seat turned into an electric chair for him. And the voltage hit him, and he just flew out of the chair in rage. And he's going to sacrifice any and all of his people to try to stop this. He doesn't care. You got that? That shouldn't be hard to understand. Because he knows his time is approaching to spend 1,000 years in the pit. And I would say that's a rather depressing, miserable thing to look forward to. And you're certainly not, but he certainly is. That's why he's crazy. One of the reasons he was crazy up in heaven, I think. So he got crazier, perhaps I could say. And it shall come to pass in the last days. Okay, we just read that. Now we're in Isaiah 2 3. And many people shall go and say, come you, and let us go up to the mountain of Jehovah, to the house of the God of Yaakov. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word. And that is the bear, the speaking. Yeah, kind of. I guess in English you would say the word. The word of Jehovah from Jerusalem. Now, the church world has been impregnated with the idea that the true gospel goes forth out of the nations, Israel, and anything like, I mean, that's the furthest from the truth. But they don't get it. And he shall judge among the heathen nations, and shall or among the heathens, and he shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Now this happens at Zechariah 12. When that's over, comes about with the glory of God. Apostle John and Elijah, of course, are going to bring this to pass, I would say. And when you get to Gog and Magog, 70 years or so later, 70 years later, you see they beat their plowshares into swords and their pruning hooks into spears. They reverse the process when Gog and Magog comes. Okay? Are you with me? I've taught this before. O house of Yaakov, that's generally would mean 12 tribes. Come you and let us walk in the light of Jehovah. Okay? Let the word be a lamp unto my feet. So in other words, the word of the Lord shows you where to walk. But God will direct us when we're redeemed. He'll tell us, no, that's not the way, go this way. You know, he's going to really coach you, and you're not going to fail, because his wisdom is perfect. His intelligence, wisdom, creativity is infinite. You can't measure it. You can't imagine how great it is. It doesn't have a limit. You're used to thinking things have a limit. He doesn't have a limit. Okay? Hard to understand, I know. But you work at it. Therefore, thou hast forsaken thy people. The house of Jacob became, because they be replenished from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistines, witches of some sort, I suppose you could say, and they please themselves in the children of strangers. And that's what it says. It's Epstein Islandish, you know? It goes on here. They're all the same. They're cut out of the same cloth. The leaders here and the leaders in the other countries, the same garbage. I pray that we get rid of this already. It's so horrendous living here. I mean, 15 months of drones, missiles, rockets, sirens, red alerts, terrorist attack. I can't tell you how bad it is. You know, it's really bad. Their land also is, and now you got to deal with rotten government again, and you know all the bureaucracy. I tell you, it's horrible. Their land also is full of silver and gold. Neither is there any end of their treasures. Now we're getting into another period of time where this is, you know, the big pre Gog and Magog pre-Ezekiel 38, but very shortly very close to it beginning, okay? Their land is full of gold and silver, neither is there any end of their treasures. Their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end of their chariots. So that's not now. This is after redemption, after we're well restored and we're headed into Gog and Magog, you know. But we'll have this wealth and riches for many decades. Their land also is full of idols. That's not the case right after Zechariah 12. It's down the road. Is also is full of idols. They worship the work of their own hands, that which their own fingers have made. And the mean man boweth down, and the great man humbleth himself. Therefore, forgive them not. Enter into the rock and hide there in the dust, for fear of Jehovah and for the glory of his majesty. Um, that word glory is not kabod. It's not glory. It's splendor. It's not like kabod. That's the glory word. Magnificent. It's mistranslated. I don't know why they did that. They mistranslated. The lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and Jehovah alone shall be exalted in that day. Amen, amen, amen. For the day of Jehovah of hosts shall. Now, this is the day of the Lord. Okay? Now, I checked the Hebrew on this to make sure it wasn't wrong. I'll read you the Hebrew words for this. It's correct. So it runs on to Gog and Magog days. Okay, so it says, oh, I'm in the wrong verse. All right, what it's saying is key, so it's saying that Yom, day, La Jehovah. So it's saying that day to Jehovah. Okay. Well, you might say in English of Jehovah, you could say it that way. Okay, so it's got a correct translation. So this is the end of Gog and Magog. And let me go back into English. Starts in verse 12, wasn't I? Yes. For the day of Jehovah of hosts shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty, and upon everyone that is lifted up, and he shall be brought low. And upon all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and upon all the oaks of Bashan, and upon all the high mountains, and upon all the hills that are lifted up, and upon every high tower, and that would be a building, office, or apartments, I guess, every, and upon every fenced wall. Now, this is interesting. And upon all the ships of Tarshish. So I guess, work with me here. Well, I don't know. I'll use you as a sounding board. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Sounds like after the ships of Tarshish bring them here, they stay here. So maybe we'll be taking cruises. I don't know. If you get rid of the problem with the cruises today is this: they attract several different kinds of people, and I will tell you who they generally attract. Not all the cruise lines, but the main, the Princess, the Carnival, Royal Caribbean, these kind of cruise lines, right? They attract people that like to drink a lot, a lot. People that like to eat a lot, as in gluttony. People that like to lay around and expose themselves in scanty bathing suits. Um, some people like to go see the landmarks, the ports you stop at and go explore. That's nothing wrong with that. And there's a lot of people that do that. And they like having the amusements for the kids, water slides, which are basically trying the Lord, going down an 80 or 100-foot slope like this in a water slide. You're trying the Lord. You're giving yourself a near death experience or something like. If something goes wrong, you crash and die. I don't go for stuff like that. If I built an amusement park and I put a brick wall up, right, and on the wall I had hundreds of 12-inch razor sharp spikes, and I put the people in a really long set of cars like this, and I hurled them at that wall at 100 miles an hour and stopped them 2 inches in front of the spikes, they'd wait online to take the ride. Or they want to try the Lord. It's so stupid. And upon all the ships of Tarshish, so it looks like they're here. And upon all pleasant pictures, I guess like paintings, things on the wall. And the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of men shall be made low, and Jehovah alone shall be exalted in that day. Oh, back to the ship. So, not everybody on the ships goes there for that. They go there for the entertainment, which normally they have comedians do an early show and a late show, typically, but not always. The early show is clean, the late show is dirty. They have a lot of late night discos where the people get drunk and dance and try to meet strangers, whatever they're going to do. I don't know. And then you have a lot of people that just go there. They enjoy the food, but they don't sit there and go like this, and they don't eat 5 times a day. There's people that eat there. They run a lot of these things one night of a 1 week cruise. They run uh, normally it's a Mexican food night, but it need not be. It could be seafood. And they run it on the Levi deck, the deck where the swimming pool is. And they usually do it at midnight. They have a big buffet, and they got tables to sit at and eat out under the moonlight. But you don't see the stars of the moon because all the lights from the ships wash that out. I wish they shut all the lights in the ships off so you could see the stars and the moon, which would be impressive out in the middle of the oceans. But they don't want that. They want the ship well lit up so there's no dark spots for bad things to happen or people to start doing promiscuous activities out on the deck and stuff like that. So they don't care if you do all the promiscuous activities you want as long as you do it inside a cabin. But if anybody tries that outside, they don't like it at all. But many of the ships have topless bathing practices for the women, mostly the European ships, and probably from other countries. So they get raunchy, and then some of the American places have a topless area where people are not only topless, they're bottomless too. But it's just weird, what they do. It's weird. So moving along, you got gluttony, you got alcoholism, you got debauchery, you got the disco thing, and they have gambling. You got enough junk in there now? Okay, so what you have to do to make the ships pleasant, take the gambling casinos, throw the equipment in a fire and burn it because they cheat. The shows are a nice idea, but they could be good music, singers, they could be Bible studies, Bible themed plays to teach a Bible lesson. They could be educational lectures about the ports you're going to stop in the next day. Um, They could be teaching about oceans or whatever, you know. They don't have to be, you know, themed after the world's sins, right? The buffet and all the food, you can leave that out, but you just tell the people, why do you want to be a glutton for and destroy your health? I think it's rather pleasant that the food all be around all the time. That's fine. The alcohol, in my opinion, can go, but you could, I suppose, keep the wine and the beer around for people, you know, the light stuff, but the strong drink, yeah, gone. You can drink, but getting drunk is the problem. And I would refrain from strong drink. The Bible never really prohibits it. It prohibits getting drunk, but the implication is the strong drink you stay away from. Beer is not a strong drink. You know, beer is in the wine genre, even weaker, I think, or about the same. I don't know. I think a glass of wine and a beer together are about the same alcohol. So if people want to relax and enjoy themselves and moderately partake in that, I don't really see it as a sin. Getting drunk is. Or if you're sitting out by the pool, now that's another thing. If you're going to sit out by the pool, you can't be scantily clad. Okay, women can't do that. If you go back and look at beach scenes in America around the year 1900, or you can even go 1920, 1925, and you see how the people dress, that would be more in line with what should be. You know, it's more like a dress you go in the water with. You don't go scantily clad in front of people. It's something that'll go down below the knees, probably, and it might have long sleeves or short sleeves, but it's not going to be revealing. It's certainly not going to be a two piece or any small, tight one piece. It's going to be like outdoor clothing, okay, for swimming, something like that. And the men would wear like a t shirt and they would have shorts down typically to about the knee, but a little above the knee. Uh, and that's how I would see it, you know. And then you could sit outside, lay down by the pool, dip in the water, you know, stuff like that. You want to have a jacuzzi? Go in the jacuzzi. Where you bathing suit? Go in the jacuzzi. There's an exercise track for running and walking. You want to use it? Fine. Wear your bathing clothes or whatever athletic clothes you want to wear, as long as it's not scantily clad. You don't want to do shorts and stuff like that. And go take the jog or walk. Go ahead. So then you have to deal with, what do you do on the cruise? Well, you know, you do nice things on the cruise. You don't go out and sin, you know. Um, Kids could have a camp and play games and stuff like that. Now, not all the cruise ships are like that. If you go to Holland, America, the average age is probably in the 60s, and they don't have any of these, death-defying rides, roller coasters, or water slides and stuff like that. They got jacuzzis and swimming pools. They got gambling. They got alcohol. They got the food with the gluttony, and they got the bad shows. So you have to clean that stuff up too. And then you have the smaller ocean-going ships that are considered six-star, like Regents, and there's several others. And those things are even more sedate than Holland America. They don't have any of the rides or water slides. They do have pools and jacuzzis. They have shows that are normally a lot more talented people, singers and musicians. They might have a play, and I don't know, the theme of the play would probably be wrong. They have entertainers on the cruise ships. They do juggling, they stand on one finger, they do acrobatics. What's wrong with that? Nothing. Some of them do, like they go on swings above the ground and swing. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you know, um, comedians, as long as they're going to tell um, clean jokes, there's nothing wrong. One of the big jokes they tell on the cruise ships is, they make fun of the people. They said, they ate so much at the buffet that the ship sank 6 inches down into the water. Of course, that's a joke because the weight from the buffet is just transferred into the people, so it doesn't sink the ship. Then they tell jokes about people want to know where something is, and someone says, "Oh, you just go across the street while you're in the ocean." They're pretty funny. They tell you when the maids clean your room and they bend the toilet paper on the roll over to make it into a point. Says every time you use the bathroom, put it back into the points, and then the maids will wonder why you never use the bathroom. You could have sort of funny jokes, although that was bathroom humor. It's still a funny joke. Uh, and that's kind of what you can. So the 6 stars aren't perfect, but they're a lot better. People on there are older and they don't get into the debauchery, and most of them aren't going to get blitz drunk. They'll have a drink or two. Old people don't get blotto. They don't hold their liquor as well as younger people do, so they just go to sleep. And that type of thing. And stopping at ports to see things, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to give the people lessons in the swimming pool, how to use diving tanks or how to use a snorkel, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Giving swimming lessons, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Some of them have these surfing board rides where it's like a high pressure water coming out and you get on like a surfing board thing and you're actually surfing, and I don't see it's a problem with that. Basketball court, golf ball driving range, I don't see that. They used to have skeet shooting on the ships in the back. That's a long time ago with shotguns. I don't see a problem with that myself, but you know, you could do it. I don't know. They stopped probably because it contaminates the water, so that's an issue, I suppose. Um, you know, so maybe we'll have the ships and we can modify them and use them for real locations or travel or something. I don't know. You just gotta modify them slightly to get rid of the garbage. Maybe we'll have to do that when we're actually going to Israel with the ship. Uh, the gambling casino could be just tossed overboard or burned, and you could turn it into a Bible study meeting hall. I think that would be an appropriate application, you know. And I don't see anything wrong with them handing out, snacks before you go into the Bible study. You might get some Chinese food, you might get some pizza, sushi. What else did he give out? Pastries, cookies, coffee, tea, soda, water, whatever. I don't know what other soft drinks are there. Juice, um, hot dogs, hamburgers. Um, yes, they give out chicken wings sometimes, or you could get spaghetti. I don't know who would want it, but you could get spaghetti. Um, Chicken nuggets. They use that more than chicken wings. Chicken nuggets. They're easier to eat, you know. That kind of stuff. Okay. And upon all the ships of Tarshish, and upon all pleasant pictures, and the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of man shall be made low, and Jehovah alone shall be exalted in that day. Amen. And the idols, they shall be, uh, he shall utterly abolish. I welcome it. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth for fear of Jehovah and for the glory of his majesty when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. That's when they hide in the rocks. Hide me from the face of the Lord. In that day a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold which they made, each one for himself to worship to the moles and to the bats. In other words, they're just throwing them out in the wilderness somewhere. To go into the clefts, the bats and the moles are not going to worship the idols, by the way, so you're not cursing the animals. They don't know where the heck it is. You know, they don't know the difference between a pencil or an iPad and an idol. They don't. It just doesn't register with them. To go into the clefts of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty when he rises to shake terribly the earth. Cease you from man whose breath is in nostrils, for wherein is he to be accounted? Okay, let's see what the word cease means. What is it? No. It's not bad translate. Desist. In other words, cursed be the man that trusteth in man. I think that's what it's communicating here. Although the English is rather choppy, but I think that's it. Now I'm in Isaiah 3:1. Oh, let me check the chat. I didn't do that in a while. Okay, Isaiah 3:1. For behold, Adonai Jehovah of hosts doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread and the whole stay of water. Now, this could be consistent with the book of Joel, where there's a famine, just, associated with Ezekiel 38:39. Or let's read, and maybe it's not. The mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50 and the honorable man and the counselor and the cunning artificer and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. See, I don't see this in the days of Zechariah 12 at all. So this is leaning me now towards Gog and Magog. And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. Now, we don't see this now either. I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. I don't see this now. I don't see it now. Not in Israel. And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. We see the children insulting the old people now. But, we also saw this back in the days of Elisha when they were making fun of him, you bald head, and then the she bear got him, we cursed them and all that. So, we had that all along, to some extent. When a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, Thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this room be under thy hand. This, I don't see this coming in Zechariah 12 either. In that, maybe things aren't as bad as I thought earlier this morning. In that day shall he swear, saying, I will not be a healer, for in my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people. Well, we know the food was gone when they, because the offering stopped in the book of Joel, and that's the day of the Lord, Gog and Magog. So I'm again pointing there. I'm going verse by verse. For Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because the tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory. Well, this is not exactly consistent with Zechariah 12, but it is rather consistent with um, Zechariah 14, which is the day of the Lord. Now it says Jerusalem is ruined. Let's see if they mistranslated that. Kashal. Uh, it does not say ruined. It's a mistranslation, which is common with the English. They do this on purpose. To totter or waver through weakness, falter, stumble. Nah, it doesn't sound like it's correctly translated. Because half of Jerusalem stays there and the other half go into captivity, the houses are looted, probably not the ones that have the mark on the forehead, which you could read about in Ezekiel 8 through 11, particularly chapter 9 of Ezekiel. For Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against Jehovah, to provoke the eyes of his glory. So, uh, Jerusalem is tottering and Judah is fallen. Let's read that. Nafal, it can mean fail. Let's see how Strong's puts it in English. Well, this is consistent with Gog and Magog, because Michael splits the Mount of Olives open and the people run from Jerusalem through the open Mount of Olives to get away. So I think we're back to Gog and Magog. So I think I jumped the gun when I was sitting there thinking maybe this is Zechariah 12 now. The show of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Say you to the righteous that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the truth of their doings. Woe unto the wicked. So the righteous come out, okay, which is consistent with half of them remain in Jerusalem. Woe unto, that's Zechariah 14. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hands shall be given him. As for my people, children are their oppressor, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. I believe it's talking about the way it is now, and it may stop for several decades and then begin again as we approach the great day of the Lord, Gog and Magog. Children are thy oppressors. Well, we have terrorist children that run around stabbing and shooting people in Israel for years now, and women rule over them. Well, some of you know what that means. I used to teach it openly, and people thought I was crazy because it was too much for them to believe. But there are women in the Knesset and stuff anyway. Women, the Supreme Court top judge is a woman and stuff like that. But it goes further than that, involving impersonation. Cause thee to err. Well, they teach us error all the time. What about those parades Benji runs through Jerusalem and Tel Aviv? You know the ones I mean. That's a big abomination in Jerusalem. Jehovah standeth up to plead and standeth to judge the people. Jehovah will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof, for you have eaten up the vineyard, and spoil of the poor is in your houses. Yep. There's supermarkets or multimillionaires and they fix prices by the region to bleed the people. Oh, it's sick living here, I'm telling you. What, and it's sick living all around the world too, but this place is very, very hard. You don't pay $9 a gallon for gas like we do. You don't pay 17% tax on everything, including services. You don't have a 50% income tax. You don't have 100 to 150% tax on buying an automobile like we do. It's horrible here. Pray that two witnesses come quick, please. That they appear quick. They're already here. What mean you that you beat my people to pieces? See, that's what they're doing now to us. It's horrible. Look at us giving back 1,900 terrorists from the jails. Do you think that's going to encourage more terrorism? Of course it will. But it has to. And grind the face of the poor? It's very hard to make it here. Economically, it's very hard. Saith, Adonai Jehovah of armies. Moreover, Jehovah saith, because you see, we're going to be a lot richer than the others. So he waits for the fullness of their lawlessness to set in, and then he drops a punishment on them. But meanwhile, while that's happening, we got to put up with their lawlessness, and it's horrible. It really is. It's horrible. Pray it ends. Pray you get over here when it ends. You really got to work on this. I think it might help. Please. It could very well help. Tell me when prayer doesn't help. Do you have a scripture that says your prayer is never going to help always forever? No. He doesn't hear the prayers of the wicked, okay? But, you know, you can't make a case that prayer is futile and it's never going to work. Please pray for your own sake, my sake, the other people's sake. Pray that the two witnesses start working openly. That has to happen first before we get to redemption. So, moreover, Jehovah saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks. That means they're arrogant. They walk with their head held high, I think. I don't think they put neck stretching necklaces on like the women in Africa. I've never seen it. Maybe in the past they did. I don't know. I never read that. I never saw it. And wanton eyes, walking, furry eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. They wear little jewelry on their ankles. You don't see it much now at all. It was in the past. When I grew up as a kid in the Bronx, there was a lot of girls that when I was a teenager would wear an ankle bracelet. It was thin, gold, and sometimes it had, what did they call them, little trinkets on them. Therefore, Adonai will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. I'm not seeing that now. We might get there. In that day, Jehovah will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet and their calls and their round tires like the moon. That's kind of decorative clothing. I think that's for the immediate future, not Gog and Magog. The chains and the bracelet and the mufflers, the bonnet and the ornaments of the legs. They don't usually wear that now. And the headbands, yeah, they do that. And the tablets and the earrings, they do that. The rings and nose jewels, it's to get around. It's not super popular. The changeable suits of apparel, yeah, that they have a lot of those. And the mantles and the wimples. What is a wimple? Oh, a cloak. Okay. And the crisping pins. Okay, what is that? The purse. Okay. The glasses. I believe that's not eyeglasses. That's a glass for tea or milk or something. The glasses and the fine linen, and the hoods and the veils. And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there shall be stink. In other words, instead of the nice perfumes and, they're going to have BO, I guess. And instead of a girdle, a rent. And instead of well set hair, baldness. And instead of a stomach or a girding of sackcloth and burning instead of beauty. Thy men shall fall by the sword. See, this is distressing, but it did happen in the last 15 months in the war, and thy mighty in the war. So we could say this has happened. And her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. Now, this is not likely Zechariah 12, way more likely to be Gog and Magog, where it says, thy men shall fall by the sword and by the mighty in the war. I think this is Gog and Magog. All right, we're going into 5. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel, only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Now, let's see if we can figure out when this happens. In that day shall the branch, you see, that in that day, that's Zechariah 12. It says in that day. It's not saying the day of the Lord. It actually says day to Jehovah. Yom Day Le Jehovah, day to Jehovah. Well, they call it Day of the Lord, but it's really the day to Jehovah. I think it would mean the same thing in English, really. In that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. I think delivered. It's deliverance. They twisted it on purpose to throw you into tribulation crap or something with raptured junk or something. Okay. It's delivered. Shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the truth of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are delivered of Israel, is what he's saying. That's redemption. That's the appearing. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion, not escaped from Zion, he that's left in Zion, the 1/3, he that remains in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem, written in the book of life. When Jehovah shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion. Remember Zechariah 13, a fountain's open to wash away the sins, right? I'll read it to you. It's Zechariah 13:1. In that day, it's Zechariah 12. There shall be a fountain open to the house of David and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem for sin and for uncleanness. Got it? Okay. It's talking about the same thing, I would think. I think I was just in 4, not 5. Isaiah 4, 4, I think. When the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning, and Jehovah will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assembly a cloud and smoke by day. See, that's the glory God of Israel being the cloud for us, and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense. He surrounds us with fire. And there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a cover from the storm and from rain. Is he talking about the tabernacle here? Doesn't sound too much like it, but I think the tabernacle he's talking about here is the glory of God of Israel, creating the cloud during the daytime to keep us from the heat and the sun beating down, and a cover from the storm and from the rain, and fire by night. I believe that's what it's talking about. Isaiah 5:1. And now will I sing to my well beloved a song of my beloved, touching his vineyard. My well beloved hath a vineyard in very fruitful hill. That would be Mount Zion when it was good and they were producing good fruit. And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof and planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein. He looketh that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitant of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been, that this could be now or in the past or in the future? What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes. And now go to I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, the protective hedge around it, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For The vineyard of Jehovah of armies is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looketh for judgment, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. Woe unto them that join house to house, that lay that lay field to field, till there be no place that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. In my ears, said Jehovah of hosts, now I'm on Isaiah 5:9. In my ears, said Jehovah of hosts, of a truth, many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair, without inhabitant. Well, in Gog and Magog, a lot of them go into captivity, and I imagine a lot get killed. Yea, 10 acres of vineyards shall yield one bath, and the seed of a homer shall yield an ephah. Now, this could be before Gog and Magog, not after. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflaming them. Alkies, drunks. And the sharp and the harp and the viola, I guess, or it could be a violin, I don't know, one or the other. The tabret, that's the tambourine, I believe. The pipe, that would be the flute, because it looks like a pipe. And wine, that's wine, are in their feasts, but they regard not the work of Jehovah, neither consider the operation of his hands. Therefore, my people are gone into captivity. They go into captivity. They leave. That happens at the great day of the Lord. Half of Jerusalem goes into captivity because they have, and it could also apply to the past, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory and their multitude and their pompous attitude, and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of Jehovah shall be humbled. And wait. And the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But Jehovah of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God that is holy shall be sanctified in righteousness. Then shall the lambs feed after the manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted. I read that. verse 18. Woe unto them that draw lawlessness with cords of vanity, and sin as it were with a cart rope. They say, let him make speed, and he hasten his work, that we may see it, and let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw nigh, and come, that we may know it. Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, that put darkness for light, and light for darkness, that put bitter sweet, and sweet for bitter. Well, this has been going on for centuries. You could apply it now, you probably could apply it in the future. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes, and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward, and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Just want to tell you, I said, well, people on the cruise ship have beer and wine would be okay. I'd get rid of the strong drink. I haven't had a beer or a glass of wine, I would say, in at least a year, or I would guess. So, I mean, I might have wine once a year, beer once every 3 years. You know, I mean, I have some medicinal thing called an aperitif. It has some alcohol in it and it settles your stomach. And I might use that 3 times a year, have a little sip or something. I just don't do it. I just don't enjoy it. I mean, if you want to do it. I mean, it's getting drunk that's the sin. I just don't like this stuff. I, that's it. You know, which justify the wicked for reward, and take away righteousness of the righteous from him. Well, that's the way the country operates now, but it's been like that, many times. It's therefore as the fire devoureth the stubble. Now we're into Zechariah 12, wording, and the flame consumeth the chaff of their root. So their root shall be as rottenness, and their blossom shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of Jehovah. That's the Torah word, Torah of Jehovah of hosts. And that's them with their Talmud instead of the Torah. And they call the Talmud the Torah. They call the Kabbalah Torah too. And despise the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore is the anger of Jehovah kindled against his people. And he hath stretched forth his hand against them, and hath smitten them, and the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets. For all this his anger is not turned away, his hand is stretched out. I think we're in like verse 25. Therefore is the anger of Jehovah kindled against his people, and he hath stretched forth his hand against them, and hath smitten them, and the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the street. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still to do more evil to the enemies. And he will lift up a sign to the nations from far. Now, this is your second Exodus, okay? He will lift. Let me check this. I'm not expecting anything. Let me just see what this is. It's an advertisement. How nice. Okay. You get SMS ads here like crazy. And he will lift up a sign to the nations. That's the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds from far. Well, the nations of the heathen nations, they'll see him in the clouds like lightning from the east to the west, but they're far away from where he'll appear, which is probably over Jerusalem. But they'll see it, I believe, and will hiss unto them from the end of the earth. And now that could be whistle or hiss. I like to think it's whistle, but and behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. How about that? Everlasting life. None shall be weary, everlasting life, nor stumble among them, everlasting life. How about the old people not stumbling and the blind not stumbling? Well, I guess they're not blind anymore, nor old and feeble. None shall stumble nor sleep. Well, maybe we don't sleep, but it says we'll sleep in the woods. So I get confused as to whether or not we'll sleep. I think not. Neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken. Well, this reminds me of the children of Israel in the wilderness where their clothes and shoes didn't wear out. Remind you of that? Whose arrows are sharp and all their bows bent. Their horses' hoofs shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. See, I'm telling you, we're going to fight with our everlasting body, jumping out of the stall like a calf body, right? Children get tired, but you will run and not get tired, that kind of thing. Their roaring shall be like a lion. Well, I guess we're going to be able to open up a big mouth. They shall roar like young lions. You ever hear the lions roar? Woo, they really roar. You could hear it sometimes hundreds of yards away. They shall roar like young lions, yea, they shall roar and lay hold the prey, and shall carry it away safe, and none shall deliver it. I don't know if that's the enemies or eating prey animals. Let's look at the word prey and see if we get any help. Uh, it might have a connotation of food. Wait. No, it could be war or it could be a prey animal to eat. And shall carry it away safe, and none shall deliver. When it says none shall deliver, it sounds like it's war. But it could also apply to a prey animal. No big grizzly bear's going to show up and get it away from you or something like that. I don't know. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea. And if one look unto the land, behold, darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened, in the heavens thereof. Well, that could be the sun goes dark and the moon turns to blood. I have no idea what this is. Yes, Mise, who's this? Oh, okay. Where are you now? FO. Okay, when you get into Perea Elite, Rakov Derek Hashaked, uh, telephone ani, v'ani boy Rakov, and I see you. Okay, later. Uh, that's my supplements I order from America. Okay, so I am not thinking things are so dark anymore, but when I first read through it 2 times this morning, I was thinking it was, but I prayed that the Lord would have me get it straight when I got on the air with you. I think we got it straight. So I think we're still on track. So I did clarify the ceasefires aren't so ceasefire-ish, and we're still fighting actively in the West Bank and all that. So I think that should help you understand. We really haven't calmed down that much yet, but it will. I think. I'm pretty sure. Let me look at everything. I hope you enjoyed this. Um, keep praying about all this, please, and keep praying for me to cut through this nonsense I get with the bureaucracy from time to time. That I could get it done online, and it's such a nightmare dealing with them. They're so arrogant. They're so nasty. It's just terrible. The banks are arrogant and nasty. The supermarkets are not nice as they should be. Um, everything is, people are against each other here. It's just terrible, and the war for 15 months compounded it, you know, made it worse. Netanyahu giving almost 2,000 terrorists, murderers back. I mean, what's going on here? I mean, the guy's obviously not is against us. He's not our friend. And the people don't wake up. The people walking around, whoa, whoa, whoa. They don't understand what's going on. Like the people in America don't understand what a tariff is, what Trump's really doing. He's just shifting, instead of you paying taxes to one agency, you're paying them to another. But it is somewhat more equitable. But, you know, he's all about the billionaires, and they're going to clean up on this one. I think we have not because we pray not. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he wants us to. If we're not the ones who are going to do it, nobody's going to do it in the world, as far as I know. As far as I know. So if we're not going to pray, then we're going to be subject to we have not because we ask not. If you think that's lousy advice, you could write me. I don't know how you're going to come to that conclusion, though. I can't come to a conclusion like that. We got to go to work on prayer here because it's just you're miserable, I'm miserable, we're all miserable. I know that. So we got to go to work on prayer. What else can we do? Come on, let's get busy with the prayer. I think that's good advice. You could disagree with me, but I think it's good advice. I don't know how I can decide that it's not. Keep the prayers coming for Chief, please. I know I nagged about that a lot. Pray for me and my wife, Rivka. And we get into plenty of attacks, and pray for me and my wife, Rivka, for peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing of our bodies, and pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray we get more insights. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. And thank you guys. I really hope you got something out of this. This was new territory we covered today. I'm out. Well, mostly new territory.